So over the weekend, we got this little question you do on Spectrum, as we do, talking about the release of the Moth and another muddy handling of flight controls in the presence of 2 occupied flight seats. He said he suggests it is high time for a key binding to assert flight control while in a capable seat. It actually is really funny when you're sitting in the pilot seat. The co-pilot, like if they sit in their seat, I think first or second, it's one way or the other. They can take control of the ship, but not to the point where they can fly. It's just that you can't fly. So you're screwed up. Now, C-Wing, thanks for the post, buddy, made the suggestions when you press the button, standard handoff. A 5-second flight control transfer is initiated. After 5 seconds, full flight control is switched to the seat you are currently in. Any other seat that has control is notified and given 5 seconds to reject the control transfer. If the transfer is uncontested, then control is removed. When you long press the button, you take emergency control after 1 second. Any other seat that has control removed has 1 minute to reverse the control transfer without resistance. So it's a handshake. This is all pointing towards just better multi-crew gameplay in general. Now, Yogi, who, like I said, is a big part of the flight controls, he also is a big part of the push towards VR working. He's a big DCS fan. He does a lot of immersive stuff. So that's all his realm of interest, and is a company driven by passion. So a lot of the people in their positions are driven there by the passion. He answered, he said, hey, the topic... said that like Outcast. The topic of co-pilot seats and what those seats can actually do comes up quite often. Right now, we're somewhat limited what we can do, as we have a static setup of which seats get control over what functionalities at what point, and there is no such thing as shared ownership. E.g., at any time, there is only one seat that gets control over the flight controller, and we don't have a system in place that can purposefully swap controls or parts of it over. You would think that would be, this is generally the kind of thing that you hear in Star Citizen often. Like, the system's just not there. He says, in the F7C, you can fly the ship perfectly normal from the back seat until the front seat is taken, at which the control is handed over to the front seat, as the pilot seat has a higher priority over the flight items. So right now, the architecture in that regard is a bit too rigid for purposeful dynamic swapping. The same accounts for systems like countermeasures. At the moment, there is only player having authority over it, but CMs would actually be a good case to allow control for several players at the same time. Oh, it's not easy to read. He says, I absolutely agree with the use cases you listed. He said he's personally a big fan of Instructor 2-seaters. It's his favorite way to introduce players to VTOL VR, which handles that case in a really nice way. I've heard some things about VTOL. I think that's something. And going even beyond that, I can imagine cases where you purposefully lock out functionalities out of seats via hacking, or because your ship gets boarded or so. That's it. That's the end of that sentence. I read that poorly. There is a lot of potential gameplay to be uncovered there. So obviously we want to improve things long term, but in the current list of things to achieve, it's a bit of a lower priority list, as it's a chunky piece of work. Hope that makes sense. Now, if you are in the Star Citizen community and you've been around for a while, it makes tons of sense. It sits a bit lower in priority is like the name of the game. It's always lower priority, right? And that's what kind of came up in the conversation here. He says, long term was like 2 years ago. I don't think we can perpetually use this as an excuse. I agree we want them long term, doesn't work. 14 years is more than enough time for key bindings to be solid. I'm not really the kind of person to jump on the whole bandwagon of it's taken too long. Don't talk about it anymore. But I do think there's a point at which it's worth accepting that Star Citizen literally just takes a long time, and it's not changing. Even as they speed up in some places, they're starting to deliver some more good things. Inventory is actually getting somewhere. There are content deliveries popping in. They are developing actual progression like crafting and somewhat base building, it seems. There are still plenty of tiny things that make a pretty big difference to various little niche parts of gameplay that aren't going to get high priority. I always bring it back to the old quote. It's not even old yet. This is a year ago. Although an expensive commitment, the decision was taken to devote these planned and required resources to Squadron 42 in the interest of making solid progress towards our ultimate goals. It's not the priority. Star Citizen and the things in Star Citizen weren't the priority in 2023, and I doubt they're still the priority. Just what it is. Part of putting up with this game is dealing with that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. Like, that's how it should be. I'm just saying that's the reality, and I don't think it changes. Look at, I said I wasn't going to talk about this, yes, but look at Ashes of Creation. The main thing that sets the two games apart is that CIG is building a single-player game. That's the reliable sell. That's the one they can actually launch, so that's their priority right now. And hopefully it actually works. It's clear from their financials, it's clear from their updates, from their development, from the freaking playability push last year, which was actually just, we need to take some time off features so we could focus on Squadron. These aren't the priority. Hopefully they are, but we have to, again, just look towards when Squadron 42 comes out.